Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the North East Non-League Show, sponsored by DJ Private Hire, Gateway Accountancy Services Limited, Elite Goalkeeper Academy, Motivate, Danny Lay Plumbing and Heating, The Football Pink, and Sporting Journeys North East Limited. Tonight is episode 98, which is our Kendal Town special with our guest. It was Jimmy Marshall, but it's now the North East Non-League Show Football Pink Manager of the Month, Jimmy Marshall. Jimmy, thank you very much for coming on the show tonight.
Thank you for having me, Rainey. Looking forward to it.
Excellent. I think it worked out perfect with the trophy. Obviously, we knew we were coming on a few weeks ago, so when I seen you win, I was over the moon to have the Manager of the Month on the show as well. So we'll get on to that straight away as well. And obviously, the votes came out, and the Kendal fans massive backing and supporting the votes as well. And it's been nice to see you share it and kind of put on that you're over the moon to win it. But it's just nice to see the managers get a bit of recognition in the league, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's great. I think when in the league that we came from previously, they did like a team of the month. Obviously, a manager of the month award. I made it all about my players and my staff, which I'm big with anyway. But yeah, I think it's good. It just gives the league a little bit more sort of coverage, doesn't it? And I know it covers the other. I'm learning very quickly about the North East, by the way, mate. But I know it covers all the leagues. You know, you got the concert gaffer in there and things like that. So it was more the region, but. Yeah, no, I think it's good, and if people are doing good work, and it's like yourself being a big fan of non-league and a big supporter of non-league, it's a tough gig, non-league. So when people are doing things well, and there's a lot of people out there who are doing things well, then they deserve that bit of recognition. So yeah, no, the Kendal fans are fantastic. They've been fantastic with me in day one. So I wasn't surprised to see how I got their backing. We just try and give them everything back as well, and try and make it as good a club as we can. So yeah, we're doing okay. And yeah, I'm really pleased to win it. Very grateful, and there it is.
There's the one. But like you say, we're going to say a massive thank you, like you say, to the Football Pink as well, because I absolutely love the little trophies. Like I say, it's a bit like the Premier League Man of the Match awards that they do as well. So a massive shout out to them as well. But as you say, I've got your trophy there now as well, Jimmy. And like you say, massive congratulations from the show on the Football Pink as well.
Yeah, no, really appreciate it. I think it was fantastic when it came through post. So yeah, thanks very much. Really appreciate it. Brilliant.
Excellent. But now we're going to get into the show, obviously, about yourself and your time at Kendal and obviously the season so far as well. So any questions in the comments, please get them in as well. But we're going to start with the summer, Jimmy. And when did you kind of find out that Kendal was going to be making the move to the Northern League? And what was your first thoughts?
I remember it very well. I was actually on a coach on way to a stag do. I was going to a stag do in Liverpool, actually, at Aintree races, and one of the lads said to me on the bus on the way down, he said, what league do you play in, Jimmy, at Kendal? And I said, Northwest Counties. You know what league we're in? And he went, I don't think you do. And at this point, I didn't have a clue. And that would have been sort of, I think that was about 1:45 in the afternoon. And my phone was actually on the back of the headrest on the bus, so I hadn't looked at it. And when I looked at my phone, it had about 30 messages on it. And that would have been within about a 10-minute period, by the way, Rainey. And I thought, what's going on here? So I think the club got an email. That was the 17th of May. I think the club got an email at 1:45 in the afternoon to tell them that they were getting laterally moved. And it came out via the FA's social media at 2:00. We were given 15 minutes notice. We hadn't even been given an heads up, which was, in my mind, was crazy. So, yeah, I didn't really know what to think at that moment. And I thought, well, I'm not going to let it spoil my weekend. I'll get the weekend out of the way, and then we'll get down to talking about it on the start of the following week. And as you can imagine, my first thought was one, a shock. Without a shadow of a doubt, it was one, a shock. And to be honest, my first one was like, I don't want the move. That's me just being honest. I won't make any bones about it. I didn't want to go in the Northeast, travel across to the Northeast every week at the beginning. But as we'll get to, I did warm to it slightly. So, but yeah, in a nutshell, it was a real shock to me. It was a real shock to the club. And to be fair, I've got a really good relationship with our committee, with the chairman, secretary, vice chairman. But I did have to ask the question, did anybody know because I thought surely they can't let you know within 15 minutes. But as it turned out, they actually did let us know 15 minutes before the announcement. And, you know, it's not like we could have done any prior planning. It was just shoved upon us. So we, from that point onwards, we just had to deal with it. There was nothing else that we could do other than, well, obviously, you know, the well-publicised appeal process that we went through that was unsuccessful, as were, I think, every other team up and down the country that appealed it. So, it was a shock at first, and it was almost one of those where you think, you know, I was at the stage of where I'd had 2 successful years there. We'd gone improved year on year. Guttingly, we lost out on playoffs on goal difference last year after Charnock Richard played 4 games after we'd finished our season. They needed to win all 4, and they won all 4 and got in on goal difference. And then you're going from that to thinking, right, well, we can kick on again next year. We've got lads lined up. And then all of a sudden the rug was pulled from under your feet. And I was then thinking, what am I going to do now? So that was my initial thought, was like, what am I going to do? And then once I'd figured out what I was going to do and spoke to the club, it was really important then to get a quick decision. And really, I don't, you know, in hindsight, it's great, but the appeal didn't help because the appeal dragged on. Exactly. We'd have almost been better saying, right, we're in the Northern League, get on with it. But we lost 3 or 4 weeks with that grey area. Are we going to be or are we not going to be? And I think we all knew the answer, but you've got to have a go at it as well. So I don't blame the club for that in any way. We were all behind that. And then, you know, once it was done, it was a question of, right, are you going to stay? We said we'd stay. Me and my assistant, Gav Clark, got the rest of the staff on board. And then that was the big job was then, I know we'll probably come to it later, but was then getting around the playing staff and really going from our recruitment strategy changed slightly to be, well, a little bit. But we'll probably come to that. But it was a shock. In a nutshell, it was a shock. And originally it was a move that I didn't want, but the more I thought about it, the more I came round to the idea, basically, in a nutshell.
Yeah, and like you see, obviously with the appeal and because of the time it went on, I mean, that was the second week in June, I think it was, and obviously at that time it must have had a huge impact on your summer plans, obviously chatting to players, but also bringing in players with obviously the travelling to go to the North East every other weekend. I mean, that must have been hard as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think to put it in clear speak, I think the secretary was the worst off because the decision was on the Friday and he didn't know whether he was going to the AGM for the Northwest Counties on the Saturday or for the Northern League on the Saturday. So he didn't know whether he was going south or whether he was going northeast. The biggest thing for us then, once we found out what league we were in as a management group, was right, we've got a good group of players, but who are we going to actually have when we're going to be playing in this league? So I almost forgot about recruitment to start. I just stripped it straight back and said, right, well, you know, we need to know what we're going to need to recruit. So if we're going to lose 7 or 8 players, then we've got a massive job on our hands, almost starting from scratch again. And luckily, you know, some lads took longer to make their mind up, but it was a case of getting them back in pre-season training. They all enjoy each other's company. We've got a good squad, good group of lads. And the more we got them together through pre-season and training, I thought with some of the lads who were sitting on the fence a little bit, I thought we've got a chance of keeping these now. And even then it was a little bit of a grey area though, Rainey, because it was like, well, are they going to get, for a manager, are they going to get 3 or 4 games in and go, no, I can't do this.
Yeah, exactly.
But so far, so good. We lost 2 players in the summer. Dan Gray, who played fullback for us last year, he coaches on a Saturday. He went back to he couldn't commit to it because he just couldn't get there. He coaches in the morning till dinner time. So he moved on to Charnock Richard and Pat Allington, who was another. They were both good lads for us last year. He was another good lad. He went back to Lancaster. We'd had him on a dual reg from Lancaster, and he wanted to try it in the NPL. So that, I had no problem with that, but it was. I almost knew them 2 were going to happen anyway. I was disappointed, of course, but it was about then keeping the rest of them together, and we managed to keep them together, and then eventually, slowly, add 2 or 3 to the group, and we weren't far off then. So I think going off how it could have turned out, I think we did really well. I thought the retainment was good. I thought our recruitment was good, although we were probably recruiting more quality than quantity. It wasn't numbers wise. It was lads that we needed to make the squad better. And I think all three lads who we managed to retain made the squad better on a permanent basis. And as I say, so far, the lads they've handled it really well. And as you'll know, we've had quite a lot of tough away games. We've played the top 4 or 5 away already. So yeah, that was a big thing, getting the lads to stay on board, and all credit to them. Really, it wasn't anything to do with me. It was them, and they wanted to stay together as a group, and that was fantastic, because, as I say, it could have been a game changer for the club.
Yeah, definitely. But as a manager, as yourself, I mean, you must be an excited as well to say, right, new challenge, new teams to play against. Let's go and show these what you can do, but also the players as well.
Yeah, the more we got to thinking about it, particularly as a management group, or particularly when we looked at, once I'd sort of the air had cleared around it all, and I could focus on what we were then going to have to do. It was a part of me was, I had the attitude that it was more like, well, look, we'll be travelling. We can travel down to Wythenshawe in counties. I know they got promoted last year, but that's just an example. Or Glossop, which can take you an hour and a half anyway. We all know what the traffic around Manchester's like. It's not great. And we've done 2 seasons in that division at them clubs, and I thought, you can almost say I was the manager to take Kendal into Northern League, where we went to these places that we've been to, like Blythe, Redcar, Crook, Seaham, all these places away from home that we've been to, and it excites me as a manager, because I like going to new grounds, I like going to new venues, I like learning. For me personally, as a manager, that's another league that I'll now know. So it's getting a better grounding and overall knowledge of non-league in different areas, building up contacts, and as I say, that playing at different places. And I've always said I'd rather travel north than south. So I haven't found it too bad, but that's me. I don't think the lads have yet so far either. Obviously, I think the winter could throw a spanner in the works, but we don't know, do we? Yeah. Who knows? It's all play it by ear, see what happens. So, I found it quite refreshing so far, and I think, we have had a bit of a transition period into that league, but I think so far we're doing okay.
Yeah, and I think as well, obviously, getting moved to Northern League, and to make things harder for yourself, the first game, obviously, against Redcar later as well, I couldn't give you a tougher game, but that was kind of welcome to the Northern League, and a bit of a wake up to say, right, this is kind of the standard, but you couldn't have gone anywhere else apart from Redcar, obviously, with the money that they had to kind of spend on the quality of the players, obviously players dropping down divisions to play for them as well, but it must have been a tough opening game.
Yeah, and originally, I'll not tell any lies. I didn't have a clue who was going to be strongest team in that division. So when the fixtures came out, I was almost like, "Oh, well, I don't know anything about Redcar." But as the weeks progressed, and we started asking a few questions and things like that, they were like, "Well, yeah, there was quite a few people who were saying they think they'll win it." Or certainly one of favourites for the league. As it proved on the day, we'd had a really good pre-season. We had 2 games lined up in pre-season. We always play Penrith and Carlisle City in pre-season anyway, since I've been to the club. But I pulled the plug on both them friendlies when I knew that we were going to be in the Northern League, because I didn't want to play teams that I've never done it. I don't want to play against teams that we're going to face in competitive fixtures, which could have made, when we'd lined the friendlies up, we didn't have the fixtures. So as it was, we played Penrith and Carlisle quite early on anyway. I spoke to Darren Edmondson, and it was when the friendly was organised. Jim Nichols was still at Carlisle City then. And I just said, look, lads, if we get in Northern League, which is looking, I'm not going to play these friendlies. Now, whether that was the right or wrong thing to do, I don't know. We had a really good pre-season. We finished the pre-season fixtures. We beat Atherton Collieries at NPL West 4-0. and you're thinking, yeah, we're good to go. But what we hadn't done is we hadn't played against anybody who plays remotely like what some of the teams in this division do.
Yeah.
So we had I think it was sort of out of the frying pan into the fire. We'd gone to Redcar. We'd had a fair journey over there on the bus. We were rushing slightly when we got there because the coach couldn't get under a bridge in Redcar, so we had to then go back round the town to get on the front. And everything was a little bit rushed, but that wasn't an excuse. But we just didn't play very well on the day. All credit to Redcar; they're an experienced side. They do think they play to the strengths. They do things well. We got an injury to Stephen Yorson early on, and it was one of those. You know what I mean? It just started to add up. You thought, oh, this is going to be a bad day. We ended up running out 4-0 losers, and that was almost right. Okay, well, that's a bit of an eye opener for us, but I wouldn't say it shocked me massively. But you're almost thinking, right, well, yeah, all right, we've lost 4-0, but let's take the positives out of it. We've been to one at favourites away. We've got that out of the way. Let's go again. And I think we went and beat Gisborough on the Tuesday night at home, 1-0. So, yeah, we responded quite well to that, but it's a very, very different league to what we've come out of, I would suggest. And in some ways, probably tougher, I think. But that's no disrespect to counties.
Yeah, like you say, after that, though, up until September, I think it was in all competitions, played 10, won 5, drawn 2, lost 3. And I think it was obviously that brilliant 8-1 win against Penrith as well. And I think at that time, obviously, yourself, the players, are just starting to find the feet and settle into the league a little bit by then.
Yeah, it took us a little while, I must admit, and it's very difficult to put your finger on why. I know the style of play was slightly different, and we had to make tweaks to our style of play. I mean, I've always been a manager that likes to play football, but I'm not one of these managers that plays football for the sake of playing football, and we get beat every week, but I'm still stood there saying we're playing football. So we had to start getting performances that were going to bring results. And get some points on the board really quickly, because as we all know, it's a results-driven industry, isn't it? Whether it's in league or at non-league. So I think, and the players learn very quickly as well. I've got a lot of lads in my squad who are quite diligent. They're always sending me results, and one of them's been on to me tonight about Gisborough playing Blythe and sending me screenshots and things like that of the lineups and stuff like that. So. It was a learning curve for all of us, and we had to. But it was sort of one of those ones where I said, "Look, we can't have 4 or 5 months at transitioning into this league. We need to get down and hit the ground sort of running shortly." And like I say, the results came, and there was a little bit of inconsistency, and then it all seemed to click in the second half. At Penrith, we scored 7 goals. It was on a 3G. We're generally pretty good on 3G pitches. Which is a great setup, to be fair. Now at Penrith, I was really impressed. I think it's quite smart there. And it was just one of those at Penrith, one of those nights that previous to that, when we missed chances, we always got punished at the other end. And that night, everything just went for a second half. I think we had 7 chances, scored 7 goals. We were really clinical. And it was all about, and then we put a bit of a run together, and almost sort of then from thinking you've had a semi-average start, you're sort of in 6th with a couple of games in hand, and that just shows how tight and competitive the league is, which is brilliant, by the way. I love it. I just think, even when we played West Allotment and Tolo that were down there, and they came to Kendal and they give us a right game. They never gave up on anything. They scrapped for everything. They even played, and they were tough games for us. They were tough games. So I said, there's no gimmies in this league, as proved last Saturday as well. So, on the whole, I've really enjoyed it. And like I say, it's just been a big learning curve for us all. But I think we're getting there right now.
Yeah, excellent. I mean, you touch on, like you say, some of the places you've been. It's been nice at the start of the season where a few fans found our group as well and kind of said, this is who we are. And they're starting to share the pictures now on their away trips that they're having up the North East. I mean, you mentioned some of the grounds that you've been, the likes of Crook, fantastic, old-fashioned ground, like we call it as well. I mean, overall, like you say, and seeing these new stadium grounds that we call them, and obviously the standard league, what's your thoughts on it so far?
Yeah, like I say, in the same as the fashion as the like competitive side, football side, the league, I've really enjoyed it. I do tend to do my own work on grounds before we go, so I'll have a little flutter for it around Google Images and see what I've got of your Crook Towns and your Blides, and a lot of them are very different, aren't they? You know, you got a Penrith, which is very modern, purpose-built stand with your 3G around it. Really nice little setup. Then you go to Crook last Wednesday, which is a little bit oldie worldy, but just as good in its own right. You know, a couple of them two stands side to side down that side, one with the terrace behind it, and then the one with the seating behind it, which the changing rooms are built into underneath. I love that sort of stuff. So yeah, going to all these different places it's been really good for us, and like I say, it's interesting, isn't it? And I think there's a lot of it's very similar to counties in a lot of ways, where there's, I think, a lot of grounds are quite different. Some are similar, but then there's, you know, like the Crook one, and where else have we been? Whitley Bay. Whitley Bay was a good one. I liked it at Whitley Bay. I didn't like the result. But there's a good crowd on there. They all seem to have a bit of banter about them, and it was a nice stadium which had a little bit of looked to have a little bit of a heritage about it. So yeah, no, it was. And then you go to, you know, sort of like Borough Rangers was like a purpose, you know, in that sort of complex. So yeah, they're all different, but it's fascinating, really, and I've really enjoyed it.
It's been really good to see it. Before we get into September as well, anyone that's watching so far, thank you so much for tuning in, hitting double figures now as well. So thank you very much for that. And like you say, please, anyone that's watching, if you haven't already, please get across to Kendal's Facebook page, Twitter, like, follow, and help the club as much as we can. Like to do the programs like this, the club pushes, try and help the clubs out as much as we can. So please keep supporting them, and also keep supporting the channel through subscribing down below as well. But getting on to September now, Jimmy, as well, and in the league, played 6-1-4, drawn 1 and lost 1. You mentioned some of the good wins in there as well against the West Allotments, Easing, a good side that came up, Shildon, who obviously had a couple of good seasons now, and a good draw against Borough Range. It must be a happy month there, September, for yourself.
Yeah, I was really pleased. We've tried to make sure that we have a really good home record, and then, you know, we'd like to be better on the road. I think, you know, we've had some half decent results on the road. I think that one of the games I enjoyed the most that week when we beat Penrith, we also played West Auckland away, and they were two totally different types of wins. One, you know, at Penrith we went and we were flamboyant, we created stuff, we scored goals, and then the week after we goes to West Auckland, and to show a real grit and determination about us. And then going into September, as you mentioned, I think a couple of good home wins against teams that, you know, could be tricky games. People expect you to win on paper, and they're not always the easiest ones either, are they? You know, the people are turning up to ground thinking, oh, how many is this going to be? And you know, if it doesn't quite happen, or you have a slow start, or you know, anything that can happen in a game, it makes them games tough. The one that really pleased me the most, because I was impressed with them actually, and I know you guys will know more about it than me, but they did really well last year and had a bit of a slow start this year. But we beat Shildon 3-0 the other week, and Shildon were a really good side. I really liked Shildon. I thought they were a good team. I thought 3-0 was probably a little bit unfair on them on the day. My keeper had a stormer. We were quite clinical. But we got the clean sheet in the end. But yeah, that was a big win for us. And like you say, I think it's any points in this league are good. But if you can win your own games and then you start picking a few up on the road, then hopefully that should be enough to get us in and around that top 5. I know it'll be tough, but yeah, that's certainly what our aim's going to be.
No, brilliant. And you mentioned obviously the winter months coming up now, and I think we've had a few people that we've the managers that we've been chatting to over the last few weeks that they're kind of looking forward to now going forward, where it's just Saturday games for quite a while rather than the midweekers. And especially, like you say, if the travel midweekers for yourself, it must be nice just to get them the run of Saturday games coming now.
Yeah, definitely. It's very hectic, isn't it, at the start of the season? And we've been to Borough Rangers, Gisborough, Crook. Probably another one. But we've had a few on a Tuesday or a Wednesday night. and they've been tough. And then when you're playing on the Wednesday, you're generally not training because you can't train on the Tuesday or the Thursday. So we've had to work around that. And it just gives you a clear block now. We're not under any illusions, We tell the lads, we haven't got any away, we haven't got any midweek games after the 2nd of October, and we know that won't be the case. But we call off some things like that. But I think we should just cross his fingers and toes and hope that there's not too many games called off and we don't get a backlog of midweek fixtures. But as it stands at the moment, it's give us opportunity this week to get a little bit of rest into some of the lads that we feel are maybe sort of running on empty a little bit at the moment. And then, obviously some of the other lads who we feel are coming back from injury or they'll need a little bit more. We've sort of tailored that around them as well. And then we'll be back in training tomorrow night. Looking forward to what's a big game for us on Saturday at home. When we being an international break, hopefully we'll get a big crowd on against, well, probably the informed team in league, I think. Or one of, certainly.
Definitely. We mentioned obviously Saturday gone as well, the 4-3 loss to Seam. I know there's a Seam fan that messages after every game to see how they're getting on and stuff. And he said it was a really good game at the end. But what was your thoughts on the game on Saturday?
Yeah, I would agree with that. For a Seam fan, it looked good. And for a neutral, it was probably a good game. For me, I was pulling my hair out. So, but it was... I said to the lads before the game, the bits that we do know about this league now, I said, you're not going to get an easy game against anybody. They're all fighting for their lives. So we had to be, I wanted us to be really switched on to that. I didn't feel like that we were, and I just thought we let ourselves down on Saturday. That's no disrespect to Seam because Seam played well on the day. They showed a lot of spirit and a lot of fight. And all in all, they got the 3 points. So congratulations to them. I was disappointed with how we handled it. In the first 10 minutes, we had a penalty after 3 minutes, which we missed. And then Stephen Yorson scored in 7th minute. And I thought, yeah, we'll kick on. But a really good 10 minutes where we created a couple of chances, missed the penalty. And then we switched off again for a 10 or 15, 20-minute period after that where we were just nowhere near at the races. But you've got to give them a little bit of credit for that as well. I think the big thing in that game was we took the lead 3 times. We went 1 up, 2, 1 up, 3, 2 up. Had we got the 2-goal cushion at any stage, I think we'd have probably gone on and won it, but we never did. And they kept banging at the door, to be fair to them, and eventually they got the winner. And we threw the kitchen sink at them, but we couldn't get the equaliser. So, yeah, really disappointing. But, these things happen. You're going to get bad performances in a season. You've just got to write it off and learn from the mistakes and go again. So hopefully we can use that as a sort of a tool to go and get a little bit more out of us this Saturday in what's a big game. And, if we can win that game, then I'm sure last Saturday will be nearly forgotten about and we can push on again.
Definitely see a huge game Saturday against North Shields, 6 versus 7. It's just a great advert for the Northern League, but obviously with these playoffs now, it's so exciting for fans to watch, and obviously not for managers, I can imagine. But like you say, it's a great advert. And I mean, what's your thoughts going into that game and the aims for the rest of the season as well?
Well, first and foremost, I've just had the report through on North Shields from a few of their last performances, so we know we're in for a tough game on Saturday. They've had some great results, going really well. So we're going to have to be a lot better than what we were last Saturday. But having said that, I didn't really expect that performance last Saturday either. So we've been far better than that recently. We're at home. So I'm expecting a good game. It'll be a good game. I think it'll be 2 teams that will both go for it. Maybe the best team on the day win. I think it'll, like you say, it'll be a tough game. But if we can do our jobs correctly and play to our strengths, then we'll be a match for anybody. And as I say, our home record, bar in the Carlisle City games, in the league's been pretty good. So we're just looking to build on that. And I don't think you can get too high when you win and too high and too low when you lose, because I think it's one of those leagues where you look at it and you think, if you win Saturday, you're probably back up to 6th or 5th, and you've got games in hand still, and you're right in the mix. So I think it's important, if we know we're going to lose games, We will lose games throughout the season. It's just how you react to them. And every time we lose, if we can then go on an unbeaten run of 3 or 4 and build another little bit of a run up again, and get some points on the board, then I think we'll be fine. As for hopes and aspirations, our expectation has got to be to try and finish in the top 5. We can't use the transition into the league as an excuse. We've played however many games now. We know what the league's all about. We're players individually are starting to play a lot better. They had a slow start, a lot of them, which I think culminated in a few poor performances for us. But I think, the levels have gone up recently. I think now it'll settle down to Saturday. I think that might work in our favour. Yeah. I'm hoping. And like I said, when you look at the fixtures that we've had, we've been to Redcar, we've been to West Auckland, we've been to Blythe, we've been to Borough Rangers, we've been to Crook, all these away games. So, obviously we've got a good chunk of the what you would say the top 5 or 6 out of the way away from home. Still got them all to play at home as well. But I don't see any reason why we can't get in the playoffs, and I think that's the general feeling within the group. We know that we haven't got any given right to be in the playoffs, but it's definitely an achievable goal for us with the squad we've got. But there's so many things that can sort of account for that, can't they? Can we keep players fit? If we can get lucky with injuries and players stay in form, and I think the big one certainly, and it's no excuse, Rainey, is it'll be how the fixtures fall and how many games that we get called off, and when are they going to get rearranged? Are we going to be coming over there in February on a midweek night? And will we get a fixture backlog? I heard all these stories about the A66 shutting and things like that over the winter, and so. But it's a new one for us, and we don't know what's going to happen. So I think all we can do is concentrate one game at a time, put one foot in front of the other, and we look forward to Saturday's game against North Shields, knowing that I think that's always a good type of fixture as well. When you've had a disappointing performance and result the week before, I think to play somebody who's coming in form and you're going to be in for a really, really tough game, that's the ideal type of fixture for me to say, right, come on, lads, let's go and show. We've had a bit of negative press as well. A few comments on social media and things like that. You've gone 7 or 8 unbeaten, and then you have a few who are slating you after one performance. So ideal opportunity for me and players to go and put a marker down on Saturday and say, right, we're back at it now. So, but we know it'll be really tough. But like I say, I don't think they'll want to play us either if we're on song. So it's all about consistencies and playing, having good performances. And if we can get good performances, 9 times out of 10 we'll get good results. So really looking forward to it.
Yeah, it should be a great game. And finally as well, when we do these shows, the club pushes and getting, obviously I know that the Kendal's been supporting us loads by sharing our stuff as well, which we really appreciate for that as well. But what would be a message be for people that's watching on from Kendal or around the area that kind of hasn't been down to watch a match yet?
I think for the people particularly who haven't been to games, there's been a lot of people over the last 2 years who've come down for the first time and then they've become regulars because we try and play football the right way. I like my teams to play, and Gav and my assistant and rest of the coaching staff are on the same page with it. We want to play football. We want to play an attacking style of football where we score goals. I think we scored 105 last year. So I think if anybody's short of something to do on a Saturday, come down and support your local club. Have a beer, watch the game, and generally, and even if you come to one of those games where we don't score 3 or 4 goals, and we'll always give you 100% and try and give you the best product that we can. We've got from myself right through my staff and the players, we've got a really good relationship with our existing fans. Our existing fans are fantastic. We've gone to I think our average crowd last year was 488 at home. So we're hoping to replicate that again this year. And they've been absolutely fantastic. So, and it makes a big difference, when you can go somewhere and when you're playing in home games and you've got 400 fans and they're out singing and out supporting the opposition fans, then it can be like a 12th man. And I know myself and the lads are really grateful for it. So, you know, yeah, there'll be bumps in the road. I've always said that to them, but as long as they stick by us, we'll stick by them, and we can create something together.
Excellent. Well, Jimmy, thank you so much. And like I say, we wish yourself, the club, the very best of luck for the rest of the season as well.
No, I appreciate it, Rainey. Thanks for having me on. Anytime.
Excellent. We're back again next Thursday, 9:10 for another show, Bettleton Terrier special, with the chairman and the gaffer coming on, have a chat about what's going on in Bettleton at the moment as well. So we're looking forward to that one. But again, everyone that's been watching, thank you so much for your time, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your night as well.